Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. A few technical glitches again because I'm starting way early, and I figured there were a lot of good reasons to do that. So let's see what we have here. Hopefully, the sound is okay. Good morning, everyone. Today is the 2nd of June, 2020. I'm Roy Potter. Welcome as you come in. And I've had to think long and hard about this one, and some people aren't going to like what I have to say, but nothing new about that. By the way, there's some people that are very upset at me because I wasn't able to, at least at this point, plan on completing some plans that I had coming up, and it's a very unfortunate situation. If you're not watching, if you're not understanding what's happening in our country right now, and you're upset at me because I can't, at this point, see down the road very far about how this is going to work out. Well, I know how this is going to work out, but the opportunities that we're going to have, I apologize for that. However, as you can tell from the title of this video, we've crossed the Rubicon, ladies and gentlemen. Some things have happened in the last couple days, and we've been anticipating this for some time, that to go on any extended trips at this point in time, you might get stuck somewhere you don't want to be. This is not going to turn out well. I don't have the optimism that Dan Bongino, and I like these people I'm going to name, John Cardillo. Why bother to name anymore? GK Joe, Colonel Joe, Colonel Manus. A lot of these people are applauding what has just occurred, and I realize the reason why. But I'm going to discuss why this is going to be a complete and utter disaster for the United States of America and possibly the rest of the world. We're in a catch-22. Some very evil people, very designing people have arranged things so that we, just like in the political situation, the left-right paradigm, they've given us a situation that we can't wiggle out of. We have to do an either or. And I've got to point something out here, and people aren't going to like this, but that's really what God did to us in the Garden of Eden. Do you realize that? By the way, a lot of this is going to be impromptu, just like what I'm telling you now. It's just something I figure that, all of a sudden a download came in and I need to tell you. In the Garden of Eden, God said a couple of different things that were kind of opposite, right? Don't eat of the knowledge of the tree and good and evil, because if you do, in that day you'll die. All the other trees you can eat from, but don't eat from that one. Now, what that allegory means, I'm not going into right now. That's not important. But then, of course, you had who you know as Satan come into the garden, the serpent, and say, "Oh no, Eve, that's not going to happen. You're going to be gods." In other words, a catch-22 situation was set up where no matter what you did in that situation, you're gonna have problems. And I know people aren't going to want to hear that. We could have been in paradise for eternity if Eve hadn't taken the apple and given it to Adam. And again, that's not what really happened, but okay. The fact of the matter is that it was a form of a catch-22, and Lucifer, as the being that you know as Lucifer, has been doing that ever since. This left-right paradigm because the early founding fathers said don't have political parties, and now all of a sudden we have two, basically, right? I mean, there's some others, but there are really only two. It's always setting up a false left-right paradigm. And that's exactly what they always do, and that's where we've been put this time. So what I've had to do is I've had to make some very serious decisions about where I'm going and what I'm going to do as far as travel is concerned. I travel a lot, but as it sits right now, you're a fool if you cross state lines. You'll probably be a fool. Salt Lake City apparently, I haven't checked this out, I haven't had a chance to this morning, but apparently Utah has set up a curfew now. And they're going back to the papers that you need to travel for essential services, jobs. I don't know how all that's worked out yet. I was just given the information a couple of days ago. I haven't had a chance to get into that because it really doesn't matter if this is going to be countrywide. It's going to be a mess. So getting back to what's happened here, the fact of the matter is, if Trump had acted with initiative and with another principle of war called surprise. It wouldn't have really been a big surprise, but then again, if he had worked it right, it would have been. We wouldn't be in this situation today. People say, "Oh, Roy, you're too hard on Trump. You're too hard on Trump. He just did a great thing. He's sending the military. He's threatened to send them. If the governors don't get a hold of this with the police and the National Guard, he's going to send in the military." And if you don't know, the 82nd Airborne got into D.C. last night, and I understand the 101st that's on his way. By the way, I am drinking my caramel coffee this morning with my new Second Amendment cup, just so that you know. All right. Is this 5x5? Just let me know, okay? As you can tell, I'm pretty stressed right now. Like I said, I've got family in other states that I was planning on going to see. I've got friends I was planning on going to see. And like I said, I can't do it now because I am very much involved in preparing for what's coming down this pike because of what we've been set up for. And I'm going to cover that here in a few minutes. I'm just trying to make clear that things have been taken out of our hands to a large degree. And we're just going to have to understand that we're going to have to hunker down and we're going to have to get to a place of refuge or make where we are a place of refuge and be ready for this thing that's going to happen probably within the next couple of days. 5x5, thanks, we the people. Okay, I didn't give anybody a whole lot of heads up. I said I was going to do this Tuesday morning, but I didn't give you a whole lot of heads up this morning about when it was going to come up. By the way, I'm still, even though I'm not where I usually am, I'm using my green screen now, giving you a black background to look at instead of just that green. Hopefully that's working out okay. Okay. So, as everybody should know, this has been a disastrous week. A lot of bad things have happened. And I said the other day in kind of an emergency, impromptu, extemporaneous broadcast that Trump didn't act early in his presidency. He kept trying to play these politics and diplomacy. Or was that by design? Dan Bongino, John Cardillo, Colonel Joe, Colonel Manus, tons of other people I could mention, are not going to like the fact that I believe that Trump has done all of this by design, and I'm going to talk about why. I have been talking about that, but I'm going to bring up some more of it this morning. I want to give some credence to Montagraph on this, and some people are going to pull their hair out on that one. Montagraph's been right on the money on this, ladies and gentlemen. Right on the money. We've been placed into a position where we have two evils that we get to pick from. It's not even as good as it is in the Garden of Eden. There are two evils. We either let this country get run over by leftist Marxists, which could have been stopped years ago by an IC that was working for us and not the Chinese and the New World Order. But nobody was in position to stop that. And I don't give a damn what I hear about all these good agents in the FBI and the people in the DOJ, etc. You let this country sink. I try not to lose my temper. We're in an awful situation here. As Alex Jones said, we've been murdering babies, 60 million of them. Unjust wars. Elected representatives that put their hand on a Bible and swear to God that they're going to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and then do everything they can to subvert it and nobody holds them to account. Oh, that's what the election's for. Yeah, well, it's always too late at the election. The damage has been done. So our DOJ is absolutely fucking worthless. Except when it comes to ranchers, little people that they like to set up, and trap them and then... I'm not saying they don't go after bad criminals, they do, but they do too much of this other garbage. Sorry, I don't want to lose it this morning. I apologize. And those of you who don't want to hear this, please leave. I don't want to hear anybody say, "Oh, but you're a never Trumper. Oh, yeah, you don't follow Q." If you do that to me, I hope there's a mod on here and throws your ass off. This is too serious for you to start sticking to these hopiums anymore. So, we've seen this where I've said for a long time that, and I gave Trump every opportunity, every benefit of the doubt. But along the way, he did some key things that told me that he wasn't who he said he was. And Kushner and Ivanka are still in the White House. And even people like, well, a lot of people are saying, get rid of those two. We didn't vote them in, and they're the worst advisors any president could ever have. I don't care if actually, this is a warning sign. I don't care if Jared worked it out with the social media companies during the election to do certain activities without spending a lot of money. Actually, I think that's an indictment of his criminality. And it's turned out that's the case. So at any rate, I'm sorry. Let me just continue on here. So Trump did some things, and if you don't know what they are, I'm not going to go over the whole list right now, but they were anti-constitutional, anti-Bill of Rights. And if you don't believe that, I really don't give a shit. You go look for yourself. And even with those, I thought, okay, well, maybe he just doesn't understand, he's learning or whatever. No, that hasn't been it. I believe that this has been a deliberate deception. So this coronavirus thing comes out, right? We've had all kinds of fights between Russiagate, Obamagate, and this and that, and poor Flynn's being stuck in the middle there. No, I do think General Flynn was used in this thing. First by Trump to get his base behind him because of the hero Flynn, and then he dumped him because he didn't want Flynn to find out how involved he was in this entire thing. That's exactly what I believe. That's why he let Flynn go so easily. Then the coronavirus things, I mean, other things have happened, the Syria and all that, but the coronavirus things happened, Wuhan virus. And he knows the deep state. He supposedly he knows the deep state is bad, and yet he keeps bringing these people in. Oh, but Fauci was in that position. I don't care. You go to the doctor and they give you a terminal illness diagnosis and prognosis. What do? You should, right from the start, go get a second opinion. He didn't do that. He killed this country with a bad medicine. He gave it a poisonous pharmaceutical. It's exactly what he did because the diagnosis was wrong on purpose. They had to keep things going until they could get us to this point because wars usually start in the spring, at least in good weather. This has been planned for a long time. And if Trump didn't know, then he's incompetent. And if he did know, he's complicit. And if you don't like what I'm saying, any of you, I don't care. Okay, you can go away. You can tell YouTube to throw me out. I really don't care. You can drop me. I don't care. I don't care if you never call me and give me information again. I don't care. Because we crossed the frickin' Rubicon. We let them put us in this position because we wouldn't hold our elected representatives' feet to the fire. We let the corporations take over. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm back on this again. Wuhan virus comes in. What do they do with that? Total overreaction. We're hearing out of Germany now that the whole thing's a hoax. And these are good scientists. But we've suspected that from the beginning. We first thought it was serious because of the things we were seeing in China. This was all set up. And I know you all know this. But Trump kept Fauci and Birx and the information of Gates up front in the face of the American people, sticking their butts in our face for 2 months, 3 months, actually 5 months. If Trump was the guy he said he would, he'd have fired their asses back then, and he didn't. And he put this entire country in a situation where we're dehumanized. You know, I go to Panda Express yesterday. And the doors are open. I'm thinking, oh, great. You know, so they've got, okay, social distancing bullshit. So I go in there. Guess what? They won't serve me because I'm not wearing a mask. I'm never going back to Panda Express again. I'm never going back to Costco again. You'll say, Roy, you're going to run out of options. You know, I don't give a shit anymore. Because we keep selling our souls to these asses. Because they give us the left-right paradigm, either or. And Trump has helped to do that under the guise of a victim that the poor deep state is after him. So he can't do anything. He's got to do what they tell him. Then what the hell did he ask to be president for when he told us he was going to be our champion? You know, I wrote on Twitter the other day, I said, he pretended to be our champion. He pretended to be the champion of liberty. You can quote me on this. He claimed to be the champion of liberty, but in fact was its executioner. Yeah, I'm hot. I'm hot under the collar, especially when I have friends accusing me of trying to turn my back on them. Just like it was when Trump ran for president, I backed him, and they turned their back on me then. Well, now it's kind of a different situation. It's not a left-right paradigm, ladies and gentlemen, that we need. We don't have an either-or situation. There is another choice. There is another choice. Do you have the guts to do it? So, Wuhan virus comes out. The whole country shut down. People are told that they're either essential or not. Can you imagine that kind of language right out of 1984? Oh, you're an essential person. You're not. Your business is essential. You're not. And then you see the choices that they made. 40 million people now out of work. Oh, they're giving us money, our unemployment and all that. Yeah. $6 trillion debt now and climbing. Getting ready to go to war with China. That's always what happens. Even Gerald Celente says that. They take you so far, and then when they can't fool you anymore, they take you to war. Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do. And they're going to sacrifice. You're not going to hold their feet to the fire. No, you're going to send your sons and daughters to get slaughtered for these same demons that have been doing this to you for thousands of years. Because, well, whatever reason. I don't mean to be judgmental. I fell for it too. That's why I'm so angry, I think. So, they had to start the lockdown. They had to get us ready for what was coming. Then, whether you believe it or not, because Trump isn't going after Soros, I guarantee you that on the DOJ list that's going to come out from Barr, Soros's name isn't going to be in there. Neither is HRC, neither is Obama, neither are the people in Europe and New York who've brought this about, and in the West Coast in California. Their names are not going to be on there. They went after that little Antifa guy the other day. Oh yeah, he needs to be taken down. But this is always the way it goes. The mafiosos protect each other. Oh, they're at war. Like I've said before, Trump's at war with whoever is opposing him. I'm not even going to name who all those are. But they're all bad. Don't you see it? Of course, most of you do. I know you do. You've been telling me, Roy, get off of this. Trump's not going to do anything. He's going to screw us. And he did. So, he works us into this situation. He allows these medical tyrants to take over and to ruin our lives and the lives of most of the world. If this isn't demonic, if this isn't beastly-like, if this isn't antichrist-like, I don't know what the hell is. I can't attach it to just that he's a novice politician anymore. This is way too intricate, way too deceived. He is smart. I noticed Nancy Morgan Hart wrote me this morning. Actually, it was probably last night. I brought it up actually on a Twitter. I said, what the hell is Trump doing tweeting out a Q? Where we go one, we go all. I was hoping Trump wasn't a part of that. But if he is, if now that proves that he is behind this, along with Hillary Clinton and these other people in the IC and this company in Australia that said all this stuff, if he's involved in it, it is not as Funkin' Farmer or whatever the hell his name said. Oh, look, this proves that Trump and Q are the same thing. You know what? If that's true, it's an indictment of Trump. It's an indictment that he is, again, this has been a deception and a sedation and a delaying tactic to keep you compromised and to keep you complacent. Actually, it was an indictment as soon as I saw it. And yes, Nancy, I did see it. I sent you a response this morning. So, they had to get us to this point. Soros is allowed to do, and these other leftist Marxists are allowed to do all this. The FBI and the IC and the DOJ go after freaking ranchers who are trying to protect our resources from the Chinese and from these outside influences. They go after them, and they let this stuff go on. And if you don't see it, It's because you don't want to, Dan Bongino, or you're denying it, and all the rest of you that I have so much respect for, but you won't call this out. Kissinger or Rockefeller, one of the two, I don't remember which one it was. I mentioned it was Kissinger the other day. I'm not sure that's the case, but I believe it was. Said, we will organize things so that the people will beg to have the military on the streets. What the hell just happened? We've known that this is coming, and we have a president there that went right along with it, pretending like he wasn't. Oh, I want the governors to handle this first. What would you do, Roy? What would I do? I've already said what I would do. I would have, if I were the president, I would have been working on this 3 years ago, but he put it off. The JFK things were not put out all the way, the 9/11 information, Waco, Ruby Ridge, JFK, I mean, the whole thing, everything he said he's going to do, he didn't do any of it. He let it fester and get pus in it underneath so that he could use it. More deception. The Las Vegas shooting, he still hasn't come clean on that with us. And you know he hasn't. I had a Jew, no disrespect, Jewish lady write me the other day and said, the Tet's a good word. It's a blessing to the Jews. You're reading that out of the Talmud. The Tet is the serpent. Yeah, it can be the instructor. In other words, bring us these things so that we can test ourselves. I understand that. But in this instance, it's the serpent, ma'am. Absolutely 100%. What I'm talking about is they use the Tet for spelling Trump's name in the Golan Heights. So here we are. We have these massive riots, which are really, this is really an insurgency. And I said this was coming. Trump has allowed the illegal immigration to continue despite all of his banter and bravado and boasting. And unfortunately, there was a movie back, and I mentioned it a few years back, there was a movie about the Korean War when the communist Chinese were the refugee columns, the communist Chinese soldiers were hiding within the refugee columns. And the soldiers who were trying to prevent them from getting infiltrated with the refugees, with the communist Chinese in it, sent artillery to try to scare the people to just get away. Well, they didn't go. And so the communists, they had to take out the entire column. I think that's how the movie went. Our southern border has been open, and we've allowed the enemies of liberty to come in for a long time. Now, I'm going to go back and I'm going to say it again. The United States is an evil empire. We're not in Germany, all right, and in Japan, and these other countries that we defeated in World War II. We're not in there to protect them. Do you understand it? It's not that at all. That's not what we're there for. It's to protect us, but we're occupying them to this day. Do you understand that's what it really is? When your sons and daughters are taken into this evil military and sent around the world to fill these bases up, many of those bases are actually occupation forces. That's what the reality is. And we've been doing this since World War II. Pretending like we're the saviors and the peacekeepers of the world when we've been exactly the opposite. We've caused almost all these wars. Do I like China? No. But this could have been stopped if somebody had been thrown in jail by our DOJ back when they did these things to set China up. Oh man, I am fuming this morning because I know what's around the corner. You people with your little petty concerns. You know, I don't know why, I don't know what the problem is. You're in an awful situation. We're in an awful situation. So I keep diverging. So, this entire thing happens. We don't see the Delta Force go after Soros. No! Not at all. Trump gets in his bunker. Whatever. He finally comes out and he walks over. Well, first of all, he gives a talk and he says, a law. that we have a really great law. You know what law he's talking about? It's Title 18. It's the Insurrection Act. It's part of the Title 18. It's called the Insurrection Act. That's what he's talking about. I was hoping he'd say the Constitution. No. He never mentions the Constitution. Not really. He holds a Bible up. Oh, that was a joke. If I had ever seen a code sent, that sure as hell was it. And everybody's clapping. Oh, this is the greatest thing that Trump's ever done. This shows he's really the president. Then he goes back in his bunker. Yeah, I agree the Insurrection Act needed to be used, but they always do it for the good of the government, the continuity of the government, for the government itself. They never do it for the people. Now, I've seen an argument from a lady out of Mississippi, and I don't remember her name right now. If she listens to this, she'll know I'm talking about her. She explains that the government, as a matter of fact, when I went through all of the law studies that I did, and in the military and the police, the government does not have a responsibility to protect you individually. It's there to protect the order, maintenance of the order maintenance. That's what it's about. Guess who's responsible for your safety and security, ladies and gentlemen? Is it the government? President Trump will try to say, that's my most important job. No, it is not. His most important job is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, not even to protect the people. Who's supposed to protect the people? They are. But they don't want you to know that. That's why I mentioned the other day that, the governors aren't going to call up the state militias, because that would give credence to the Second Amendment. So what are they going to do? Nothing. They're going to bring in the military, which is the last thing we needed. Unfortunately, we're in a situation right now, I don't know what the answer is either. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But we were maneuvered into this. Don't think that we didn't have a choice to change this. The sheriffs, as I said, they can deputize people and bring them into posses. They probably can't be doing law enforcement work, but they can be reserves that can be trained how to do combat under a deputization, so that they're not held, so they have competent authority to answer to. And that's what I've been talking about for a long time. That way they're not acting alone and then get hauled in by the DOJ and the FBI for fighting for their rights. Literally. Because you can bet that these leftist Marxists can do all this crap, but the moment you defend your home, they're going to come and arrest you because you used excessive force. I know how this works. So, Trump alludes to the Insurrection Act, doesn't say it, but that's the one he's talking about. Martial law, yeah. Says he's about ready to bring in the military. That was always the design, ladies and gentlemen, over 30 days ago, as Monograph pointed out. And I pointed out, nobody knew what the selective reserve was. When I saw that he signed an order, and I'm not talking about the big reserve call-up of 1 million people. That was bad enough. To try to help on the coronavirus, if it was real, maybe. Do you know he's just extended those million until August? Anybody with a frickin' brain at this point knows the coronavirus is a hoax. Why doesn't Trump? Is he playing a politics game? No, not at this point. This is strategy to maneuver us into a not that we're not already in one, but totalitarian government. With him at the head. And people are saying, no, Roy, that's what the left is accusing him of. Exactly. It's been this way the whole time, making him look like the victim so that we support him in these unconstitutional acts. Do you understand? Or at least stretching the Constitution for the benefit of the New World Order. Maybe I should just put it that way. So, he gives his little speech and then he walks over to St. John's Church. Well, isn't that nice? You know what Teddy Roosevelt would have done? And I'm not saying Teddy Roosevelt's the one that gave us all these national parks, which you might think is a good thing, but really it was a land grab from the States. But regardless, that's another issue. You know what Teddy Roosevelt would have done? He would have fucking led the charge that night to take over Pennsylvania Avenue and the St. John's Church. He would have been in the forefront of it. Be damned the Secret Service. Not Trump. Trump's got this. Then he waltzes out there after they've already cleaned out the whole area. There couldn't possibly at this point be a sniper or an ambush within 2 miles of the place. And he walks out like he's the big conqueror. And all these people are saying, oh, this is such a presidential moment. Look what he's doing. Look how fantastic this is. This is the greatest photo in the world. He gets over to St. John's Church and holds up a Bible with his right hand. Yeah, that was code. That means capture. Do you understand? So what's next? The million man reserve that was brought up about, 60 days ago now or so? Back on the selective reserve. He signed an order bringing up the selective reserve, and people don't understand what that is. And they're saying, oh, Potter, he's only bringing up, a few people. This isn't a lot. It's not a big deal. Do you know what the selective reserve is? I talked about it. The selective reserve in active duty units, like the 82nd Airborne and the 101st Airborne, etc., you have what are called billets. They're slots. They're not filled unless the unit is activated. When the unit is activated, there are people in what's called the selective reserve that are already in those billets. And as soon as the president signs the activation order, or the deployment order, I should say, the deployment order, those selective reservists are already assigned to that active duty unit, and they go to their position in the unit, which means that the unit is getting ready to be deployed. Where are they going to be deployed? In your neighborhoods, in your cities. Just like they've been practicing with these helicopters and crap over the cities for the last 10 years or so. The urban warfare. It was for here. It is for here. Just like those of us who are willing to say it. You do as you train, and you train as you do. They're training in American cities for urban warfare. That means, oh yeah, initially the excuse will be they're coming after Antifa and the leftist Marxists. But once they're in place, they'll never go away. That's the plan. Trump is not deploying the military to protect you. No. The military thinks that's why they're going out there, at least the rank and file. That's not why they're going out. It is to control you with what's coming down the pike next. And you won't realize it. And well, let me put it the other way. You're going to be cheerleading it and clapping and jumping for joy until you realize you've lost everything to this. Oh, this was a sneak attack. Talk about a Trojan horse. Talk about a Manchurian candidate. So the military will be out there ostensibly to take down the leftist Marxists that are a problem. I'm not saying they aren't. Oh, then, okay, Roy, what do you do? What I've been talking about should have been done 3 years ago. But if I had to do it now, how would I do it? I'd empower the sheriffs. I'd say, sheriffs, do your duty. And if you don't, bypass the frickin' government. Well, I guess you can't do that. Mark Pantano. I was hoping he might give me some heads up on, because I put out a tweet to them yesterday, to Mark Pantano, Chris Ann Hall, and Barnes Law got back to me, and he said that my concept of what this domestic terrorism situation that Trump did, which was actually just it's just a game. It's just a political ploy. That it was for resources, basically, is all it does. It releases resources. It doesn't do anything as far as sending people to Gitmo. No, that's not what it does. That's for foreign terrorist organizations. But see, everybody was clapping that too, because they don't understand. Yet I was in the terrorism counteraction school, and I knew how they were going to use domestic terrorism against the American people. And it's what they're doing to and rightly so, again, to leftist Marxists, the Antifa, what they're doing to them is going to be nothing compared to what they're going to do to you. Because I've already told you, what are they? One of the many dozens, probably hundreds of definitions now, if they even bother to use a definition, is if you have 2 weeks supply of food, a weapon in your house, and you don't get a W-2, in other words, you're self-employed, you are by definition of a terrorist. You know how many like that there are? And they're going to use them, ladies and gentlemen. They're going to tell your neighbors when they come and get you, oh, we know he's a terrorist. We've got proof of it. Oh, the neighbors are going to say, gee, thank you for saving us, as they haul you off to a place to be renditioned somewhere. That's where this is going. I don't trust Trump a damn bit. His track record is too obvious. So they put us in this catch-22, and we're never going to get out. Milley, you put your trust in General Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, after he just so boastingly talked about over the Ukraine situation that they're going to kill so many Russians and they're going to send them all back home in body bags. What a tough guy. He's so impressive, so smart. That's another thing Trump does. Everybody he works with is smart, terrific. If I were president and I used the military, I would be using it for surgical strikes on recognized foreign enemies that are controlling this. And let the FBI, yeah, right. I know the problem with that. But use law enforcement to do the counter-insurgency. But Trump doesn't know that, or he doesn't care. Oh, I'd take people out. Soros would have been gone by now. I don't give a damn what the Rothschilds would do, or the Clintons, or Xi Jinping, or any of those other people that are apparently behind the scenes that we don't even know their names. Selected, not elected. And we're entering into hell. Trump talks big. He's talked big from way back. But let's just take him from the campaign forward. All of his big boasting words about what he's going to do, and then we never see the action. That's essentially what happened yesterday. Yeah, the 82nd Airborne is out there, and the 101st, and whoever else they're going to bring in that have been rounded out by those selected reserve members that I warned about over a month ago. And I said that. People are saying, well, that's no big deal. I said, you don't know what the selective reserve is. You don't know what it means. This is bad. This is real bad because it's going to be on American soil. They were planning this. This is not just a reaction that Trump came up with at the last minute. Oh, our only answer is to bring in the military. No, the fact that he activated the selective reserve to fill their active duty billets and active duty units proved that this was planned out months ago. It's not just, we've got to do this right now or we're going to lose the country. No, this was all planned out. Down. Trump's a good planner in that regard, or the people he's relying on. Oh, yeah. But it's not for your good. It's not a Q thing that they're going to wrap up the deep state. Oh, no. That's not it at all. Again, Q and Trump were put in there to keep you complacent, sedated, under a drug called hopium. And it's worked very well. It's even fooled some of the smartest people, some of the people I consider to be the smartest folks. Once they take care of this, they're going to let it go for a while. This is going to turn bloody. It already has. Cops were getting shot last night. We know police officers, like I said, have been shot. Run over by cars. They're going to be bombs next. Alex Jones is right. This is going to turn to infrastructure. The Chinese forward elements and those that they support, like Antifa, ISIS, drug cartels, etc., they have weapons now that they are going to use to take out infrastructure, your electricity, your water, your gas, your communications, your food supply, government buildings. Oh, this is next. Last night I saw in D.C. that they were, remember they said they were going to go to the suburbs in D.C., I think it was in D.C. The hordes are now beating down residential doors and going in and ransacking homes, probably beating up the residents inside. Told you that was coming. The next is the infrastructure, and they've got the tools to do it. Back several months ago, it was actually last fall, I believe, maybe last summer, I talked about this story. This was in Salt Lake City. I was going down a road. I'm not going to tell you where it was, but I was going down a road and I saw this white Tahoe, no license plates, with two illegals inside. It was real obvious. You know what they were doing? I told about it at the time. The back of their Tahoe was full of ballistic vests, full of them. And they were examining some on the front seat and they saw me looking at them. So they tried to get away. Oh, I followed them. And then they took off and they pulled into a residential area. I don't know if that's where the end of their journey was. I don't think so. But I wasn't dumb enough to follow them in there. Okay, I knew it was a one-way place. There was no way out but the way they went in. But I saw a cop across the street and I ran over there and I said, "You got this situation going on." You know what he did? "Hey, thanks. Okay, I'll tell him up the line." He just left. That's what he did. So I go down to the police station. I file a report. Actually, I couldn't go in the police. I might as well keep it true to form. I couldn't get to the police station because they won't let you in. I had to go to the library because it was their day off. So I had to go to the library and call the Valley Emergency Communications Center. They just blew it off. They didn't even ask for my name or phone number. So I had to tell a friend of mine who's I better not be too specific, but he's very high up in a law enforcement organization. So I told him. And he went, "Oh, crap." I'm like, "Yeah." And now where are we? So they're getting ready to go kinetic. Okay? And they've been allowed to do this because the FBI's been too busy playing this game of we're looking for Russians and we're doing this and we're doing that. And we're going to come after the ranchers and we're going to set up, Geller down in Texas and have them, the Islamic terrorists take them out, and they even had an FBI agent assist in it. Then it went bad because there were two Dallas cops, I guess, out there who shot these dudes. And you wonder why I'm upset. And yet, look how evil our country has been. I've already talked about that. We're letting what do they call them? Drag queen story times, bouncing our little kids and the parents that are going, "Oh, isn't this great? We're so open-minded." No, you're ripe for destruction, and these beasts that are here to test you, that are the Tets, that are the instructors, that are those who test your morality and your God-fearing, God awe, you failed the test and you're ripe for destruction. And unfortunately, it's going to take a lot of good people down with you. You stupid, stupid people. And I'm not talking to the people who are listening to me now. I know most of you are on board with this just as much. And those who come on here and aren't, throw their ass off, please, because I don't have time to watch that. If you're a mod and you're here, just throw their asses off. So they worked us in. They've got us to a point now where the military is going to save us. And then guess what? They're coming after you. And guess what comes in? People that have been studying this are right. They're going to force this vaccination on Trump. "Oh, no, we're not going to force the vaccines." Oh, no, he does it by proxy, right? He sets it up so the states will enforce it because the states control it. He knows that. So he set it up so that they make the edicts. Look at the mask situation now, the social distancing, which we already know, and I've already said this, is already bunk. But they're still doing it. Oh yeah, they're coming to give you, it's not a vaccine, and you know it isn't a vaccine. You can't vaccinate against something like this. No, this is an implant. This is a mark. This is a control mechanism. This is a control grid to go along with the 5G and Starlink NSA. By the way, I was down by the NSA facility again, pointing the mountain down. It's not really in Provo; it's in Lehigh. And I had heard that there was a new building down there that's huge, almost the size of the NSA, that is more surveillance. And guess what? Yep, it's there. And they house all those people in a place called Eagle Mountain, not far from there. Yep. This is not going to go well for anyone. The beast system is already in place, and they're activating it now. And we're sitting here clapping our demise. Yeah, President Trump, way to go, when he's maneuvered us into this. And nobody's going to convince me otherwise. Nobody. Better get ready to protect yourselves. And there's not going to be any safe place. You understand that? They control every square centimeter on this earth. Except maybe Antarctica. That's another story. So you're only going to be able to do a delaying action. Even if you have your sheriffs and governors stand up to this, the overwhelming force that is being marshaled against you will be just that. Now, the American military, unfortunately, is being used for this evil, just like they were with the false flags in Iraq and Afghanistan after 9/11 and even before that. The empire building, what we've done in South and Central and South America. Look at the United Fruit Company and the CIA under Eisenhower. By the way, did you know George or that oh crud, Douglas MacArthur. This is one of the events that I left out of a tweet that I did the other day about how the government has cracked down on the American people unjustly. One of them was World War I vets that were promised their bonuses for having gone to the war. The government didn't pay them. Gee, that doesn't surprise anybody, does it? So guess what they did? They conducted a peaceful protest in D.C. This was in about the same time as the Boston police massacre under Hoover. Same time frame. If you don't know about that, look it up. Not the Boston bombing, the Boston police massacre. By the federal government and by because they were doing the same thing as these vets were doing. They were saying, hey, we want our pay. So these vets are doing a peaceful protest. These World War I vets are doing a peaceful protest in D.C. Douglas MacArthur comes in. I don't know if he killed anybody, but he was brutal. Brutal to these vets that were there just asking for what they were promised in the first place. And they're going to do it to you. The things that they promised to you, they're going to beat you into the ground rather than give it to you. And that's what's coming. And I'm tired of people clapping and going along with this. You know, I wanted to yesterday. I wanted to say, finally, Trump's going to do something. And then I thought to myself, wait a minute, what am I doing? I'm falling into this myself. This is a trap. We're going to go willingly into our slavery. Willingly. I just can't believe this. And people are upset because I can't come see them. Let me just read through some notes here. I've already talked about the selective reserve. Selective reserve is to round out the active duty units called up to supposedly counter the riots, but it will morph into a counter domestic disturbance mission against the American people in general, to enforce safety, security, and I'll say it, the vaccine, which is not a vaccine. It's not. A lot of people say roll up your sleeves to protect their channel. I really don't give a damn, right? I never have. It's a vaccine, but it's not a vaccine. What it is, it's a mark. I was part of a garden plot mission when I was in a military police company. I know what garden plot is, and I know how it can morph. from a domestic disturbance operation in a very limited capacity to one that would be nationwide. I know how that would work, and it's going to. That's exactly how it's going to work out. Some places will get it more than others, but it's going to be everywhere. Trump's mark is either he doesn't do anything at all or he overreacts like he did on the Wuhan virus and on this thing now. But guess what? It's not an overreaction. It's deliberate subterfuge. So he can blame somebody else. Plausible deniability and plausible deniability and by proxy. So he can say he didn't do it, but he forces the other, like he did with the Wuhan virus, get the governors to follow his task force guidelines. And then he says, well, I didn't make them do it. We got to open the country up. Listen to Mark Pantano. He does a good job on explaining how that subterfuge worked. This is a demon, ladies and gentlemen. He's not a good guy. The devil doesn't come to you as a gruff, disgusting, fanged, horned, tail, red, evil-looking thing like Freddy Krueger. He comes to you as a well-dressed, soft-spoken, Trump's not really soft-spoken, but respectable businessman. People wonder why I wrote a tweet yesterday answering Melania Trump. And some asshole on there decides to say, why are you dealing with this witch? Don't you understand the scriptures? No, she's the wife of the President of the United States, idiot. It was the one way in. I was hoping that, and not that she'll see it, but I was saying, can you get your husband to repent? Can you get him to change course? And you know of what I speak. And she does. And people want to find fault with me for trying to reach out like that. You people are, not all of you. Tucker Carlson, that's where I'll end off tonight, this morning. Tucker Carlson said it all just right yesterday. It's been on the internet. I don't have the link to give you. Tucker Carlson talked about it. It's about a 14-minute segment from his show. Rich Higgins, if you go to his, @RichHiggins, I believe he put it up. I'm pretty sure on my Twitter line I retweeted it. As a matter of fact, I'm certain I did. And Tucker Carlson really spelled it all out. The only thing that he did do was when he said it was great that Trump gave that speech and then went over to St. John's Church, which on the surface it does look right, but it's too little, too late, or it's by design to make us believe that this isn't a plan. But it's a plan, and we're taking it hook, line, and sinker. If the people were able to secure their own security and safety, along with their liberty, we wouldn't be in this mess, but they've maneuvered us into it. That's why I was calling for governors and sheriffs to stand up against this. And again, going back, you hear Clinton, the news media and all saying, Don Lemon, Trump's going to be a dictator. He's going to be. Do you know why they're doing that? Oh, they might really believe it. I don't think so. Not in the way that you might think they're thinking it. They're part of if there's a plan, that's the plan to deceive you. That they attack him like the Pharisees and the scribes did Jesus, and I said this before, so that you look upon Trump as the poor victim, all right? When really, in reality, you're the victim. They're actually coming after you, and I said that all along. It's you they're coming after. And Trump admitted that, back in October? Oh, I finally realized that I'm not the only one they're after. They're really after you. That was another Luciferian little thing. I'm convinced. So Don Lemon and all these people say, Trump's setting himself up to be a dictator. And then when he's actually doing it, or at least allowing the NWO to become totalitarian and take over completely, at least that, We got to defend him. Oh no, Trump's not doing that. He's a good guy. He's for, all these things. Where's the evidence? There isn't any. There are words, no evidence. I made a lot of enemies this morning because everybody wants to clap and cheer and think that, things are going to be now peachy and rosy. And no, they're not. A couple things I might bring up. David Knight, God bless him. He's on InfoWars, of course. He's the kind of guy I'd like to be friends with, but that's not going to happen. He put out a tweet. I just want to read it. You know how I'm doing this lately. He says, number one, Trump took credit and responsibility for the lockdown, said it was the right thing to do, and he would do it again. Really? What? Number two, he gave the presidential podium to Fauci and Birx to push lies. Number three, he has left them in power, along with Kushner and Ivanka, who apparently are really running this whole show. Because I don't think Trump's smart enough, frankly. Again, the devil will pretend to be a pretty stupid guy sometime, or very intelligent, whatever. Point is, he's complicit in this thing. 4, governors, mayors, cops are dictocrats. All cite his and CDC's recommendations. And I pointed out the other day that the CDC can't even do math, basic math. 0.26% is not a quarter. It's 200ths of a, it's 200ths. It's 0.026. Not 26% is 0.026. They can't even multiply by the right factor. And yet they're controlling the whole country. Again, David Knight, Tennessee hands out masks treated with pesticide. Reminds me of government 9/11 lies telling people they had nothing to worry about from the dust. You're gonna breathe first of all, the carbon dioxide. Somebody says, "Well, the carbon dioxide won't stay in a mask." Oh, yes, it does. It's a cumulative thing. Eventually, even a doctor during a surgery will take a break and breathe fresh air and then replace the mask when he goes back to work. So you will trust Operation Warp Speed. You know what that is? Speeding the vaccine trials, right? And they're not trials. This is all to give pharmaceutical companies money and to give you a mark. And to kill off a bunch of you, just like Gates said it would do. What, 700 and something thousand? Or is it 700 million? I don't remember. Will you trust vaccine Trump's pushing so hard? Mark Pantano. This is funny. Colonel Manus, Colonel Schlichter, and others who I have so much respect for, even though I'm not going to clap Trump with you guys. I'm not. And if you want to know what I think should be done, that would take up more time, and as you know, more staff time than we have for here. So I'm not going to try to explain that, but it had to start happening 3 years ago, and it didn't. So anyway, Schlichter and Manus both say, buy guns and ammunition. You've seen me tweet those out, those of you who follow me on Twitter. And they're right. They know where this is going. They just can't be critical of the president because they still are subject to the UCMJ, or it's because they're hoping that things will turn around. They really believe that Trump might do something. I don't believe it, gentlemen. I do not. Sirs, I don't believe it. So this is what Mark Pantano says. Buy guns and ammunition. Become proficient in their use. Encourage your friends and family to do the same. You're responsible for your own safety. I just said that a few minutes ago. The government will not be there to help you, but they will prosecute you for defending yourself. Oh, yes, they will. Or they'll come and say, give us your weapons. For your safety, give us your weapons. We're under martial law. You can't have weapons. Remember what they did in Katrina after in New Orleans? Yeah. The government is not on your side. Be prepared to protect yourself and family. Faith Goldie, God bless her. She's a Canadian. I followed her for a number of years now. And she said this. While blacks in Antifa across America went buck last night, governors were nowhere to be seen. Mayors were nowhere to be seen. Cops were nowhere to be seen. The president was nowhere to be seen. This unleashing is by design. Hoax 2020. See, even she knows. And she named all the right people, including Trump. Rich Higgins, follow the money. George Soros has given $18 billion to his pro-democracy foundation. Where is the Delta Force? Where is the FBI going after this terrorist who's been criminally charged in several countries, but not the U.S.? Not under Trump even. Gee, Sean Hannity. Gee, Judge Janine. Gee, well, at least Lou Dobbs will call it out once in a while. Why don't you start doing your job? Stop looking for money in a position. Not you, Rich. I'm talking to Sean Hannity and Judge Janine and Lou Dobbs. At least Tucker Carlson has the guts to at least go 3/4 of the way. Rich Higgins again. The Marxist coup is evolving into a Marxist insurgency. And I'm not saying that this happened suddenly. This could have been stopped many years ago, but certainly when Trump came in with supposedly his big deal. But it was all a deception. As I've said, he was part of the deception. And Rich doesn't want me to go there. I know. But you know me, Rich. I call it like I see it. And you might say, well, you don't know the whole story. All I got to do is see what's happening, Rich. I read your papers. They had to have Trump involved in this. The Marxist coup is evolving into a Marxist insurgency. Just like I said on my borders, Mexican drug war or insurgency. It was an insurgency down there. Guess who did it? The U.S. Both with the drug cartels who were their insurgents, who were they were funding and buying and sending this stuff over. We were financing our own destruction, right? With people like Eric Holder also sending fast and furious weapons to them, right? It's all in front of you. It's all in front of you. The Marxist coup is evolving into a Marxist insurgency. Where is the national security team? Why are the Coosters still on the loose? Yes, Trump. Why? Rich Higgins, why don't you ask Trump that? I know you're doing it kind of roundabout way. Why isn't Antifa a designated terrorist organization? Finally did. Then he has this statement. And this aims right at Trump. He'll say the national security team, but Trump's part of that. No concept equals no strategy. As much as I am concerned about Justin Amash, he made a true statement. Of course, he's the one that's been anti-Trump all along. I know. And I know. Why are you quoting Justin Amash? Because what he said here is true. Listen. Talking about Trump. Trump says on 27 May 20, he has a tweet here. It says, warrantless surveillance of Americans is wrong. What did he do with Project Guardian? What did he do with the social media companies, asking them to work with them and surveilling people for the red flag laws, etc., etc.? Okay, but on the 27th of May, he said warrantless surveillance of Americans is wrong. And then this is what Justin Amash says, and he's absolutely right. He literally signed warrantless surveillance of Americans into law on January 19th, 2018 with the reauthorization of FISA 702. Doublespeak, lies, deceptions, bravado. The rhetoric doesn't meet what's on the ground. Oh, what are we going to do, Roy? Who are we going to vote for Hillary? We going to vote for Biden? No. You just have to know you're on your own. The government is not here to help you in any way, shape, or form. It's going to have to go down to local areas. That's why I say you got to get on your governors, you got to get on your sheriffs, your mayors. That's not always going to be successful. This is going to balkanize the country, as I've talked about for many, many years now. This is the destruction of the government, and unfortunately, deservedly so. Oh, the elites will stay in power in one way or another. But your only hope is to come down to your local level again and tell the central government, for as long as it lasts, to go screw itself. Listen to this from David Knight. And Trump doesn't know this. He doesn't know it. He's so stupid, or he's so subtle. The serpent is the most subtle beast of the field. David Knight. DHS and CDC used a high school science fair project from 2007 to establish the rules they're pushing today. Social distancing. All the usual suspects from 9/11. George W. Bush's administration established what is being imposed today, even beyond the model state emergency health powers. Flashback from November 2015. Again, David Knight. God bless you, David Knight. Glad I met you at Bundy Ranch. It was a pleasure and an honor. Flashback, November 2015. Candidate Trump calls for internet censorship with help from Gates. Bill Gates. Today it's called NewsGuard. Is it any wonder that nothing has been done to protect First Amendment free speech, free press? Here's my 1-minute audio report from 2015. Now, he put this out. I don't have the date on here. It was a few days back. Go look at his Twitter line. He talks about audioboom.com/post/3925961 and then dash and something else. The whole thing isn't here. Sorry. And then there's this guy I follow on Twitter. His name's Dr. X. Sometimes I think he's a little too far. But then when I look at my own situation, I guess people could say that about me. Listen to what he says here. POTUS, real Donald Trump, you stated America will never become a socialist country. Remember when he said that? And then he started nationalizing businesses? Listen to this. You crowed MAGA and lock her up, and yet America has taken the most evil turn in its history on your watch. I no longer trust you. I hope Donald Jr. and Eric Trump are proud. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been duped by a master magician, by a master magus, by a master tet, by a real serpent. And it was always in front of us, but we were so desperate for a leader that would stand up for liberty and for the Constitution that we took off our spectacles and we became very, very nearsighted. I was guilty of it too for several years, I admit, and I regret it. Not that I could have changed it, but I may have been able to prepare a little better. Let me go to my Twitter line, my own Twitter line here, and read a couple things on here from myself. Okay. I hope you bear with me. I'm just trying to unload all this today. Martial law isn't coming, it's here. Your liberty has been taken from you. People wearing masks. Oh my God, I can't believe it. The dehumanization going on. Here's, you can go to Daily Caller. That's the one I tweeted out on Tucker Carlson. Daily Caller puts it out on my Twitter line. Tucker Carlson rips into President Trump's senior advisor, Jared Kushner, and rightly so, and he might have as well have added Ivanka to that. The president's famously sharp instincts, the ones that won him the presidency almost 4 years, have been since subverted at every level by Jared Kushner. I'm going to put this up there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. That's where you want to go. Can you see that? Go see Tucker Carlson's. It was just done the other night. This is the lady I was talking about. She's from Mississippi. She goes by no one. At Tweet the Truth to Me. Brilliant woman. Brilliant woman. I would say that she and Mark, I don't think she's an attorney. I could be wrong. But she studied the Constitution, and I wish she and Mark Pantano would get together, along with Nancy Morgan Hart. Listen to this. Guess who didn't exist when Article 1, Section 8 was written? It's talking about the militia. Answer, the National Guard and the military. The military was the militia. And then we morphed into this thing to have a central army, which is exactly what the framers didn't want, a standing central army. If they had one, they wanted it to be small. The National Guard is not the militia. Because the National Guard and the military did not exist when Article 1, Section 8 was written. That's what she's saying. Guess what act was passed after both were formed in order to prevent them from executing domestic law enforcement? In other words, what act was then passed after the National Guard and the military were formed? What act was passed to prevent them from acting under civilian, executing domestic law enforcement? Answer, Posse Comitatus Act. I talked about the sheriff, Polk County, I guess, sheriff. There in, I guess it's in Florida, I'm not sure. You'll probably know this one. This guy here gave a fantastic, he said, come on into our suburbs, all our people are armed, and I encourage them to be armed. And you're going to get your asses shot and taken out in body bags. Amen. Unless the military comes and says you can't have a weapon anymore, or your police come and say you don't have a weapon anymore. I hope he can stand up to the DOD and the FBI and the DOJ and his local state tyrants. Don't know if he can. And everybody's saying that this is an incredible image. Remember I talked about this at the beginning of the... look, my green screen is bleeding through on that because it's blue. But you get the idea. That's in front of St. John's Church. Holding the Bible up, ladies and gentlemen, that is a code. And it means capture. And I pointed this out the other day as well, and it is true. And this is what Barnes Law I checked with him on. I didn't hear back from Mark Pantano or Chris Ann Hall. But this domestic terrorism designation that they can do under the FBI's regulations basically doesn't allow them to, just go grab them and throw them in Gitmo. That's not what it does. It releases resources, investigative and prosecutorial resources, and Mike Cernovich understands that. And as he states here, almost exactly what Robert Barnes of Barnes Law stated. Best part of declaring Antifa a domestic terrorist organization isn't the use of military force on riots, because Trump can now use all military intel assets to monitor Antifa, China, agitprop networks, and funding. Treasury can pull all bank records. Trump only needs to have the will. And I would agree with that procedure. But you understand, at this point, it should have been done when we were calling for him to go after Antifa, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Maybe further back than that. It should have been done a long time ago. Now, there's a slippery slope here with going after Antifa. And Spiro, I think is his name, brought that up, that this is a slippery slope, starting to classify domestic organizations as terrorist organizations. That is a slippery slope, but there are guidelines you can use for that. For instance, what happened at Bundy Ranch wasn't domestic terrorism. No way, shape, or hell was that. People resisting the government at Waco. Normal demonstrations like the Second Amendment demonstrations in Richmond, Virginia. Remember those? But they were called domestic terror. They even had FBI people up there. They even admitted they were gathering the names of the people using facial recognition and all, and go and investigate them. Really without probable cause. But only because of the domestic terrorism situation that the FBI puts out and the DOJ. Not really a law even. So it's a slippery slope to designate political dissenters as terrorists. And I understand that, and I've talked about it for a long time, but that's because our government is so corrupt. That's why we can't allow them to have these tools, because they always misuse them. Ramsey Paul is another one I like a lot. He's really smart. There are a couple things in here I'd like to read from him, but I won't. Dan Bongino, defend yourself, defend your family, defend your home. The insider that gave me information that all hell was about to break loose. If you remember, I was reading this on my live stream the other night. I mentioned to you, I was reading it from him, and he said, keep your eye on Schumer and Pelosi for operational sequencing. So I'm answering a lady here. I'll just go ahead and read her tweet. Well, first of all, Mark Levin, I was actually responding to him. It says, Pelosi and Schumer refused to condemn the violence, looting, and arson. Why is there no condemnation of their intentional silence? Exactly. Lincoln would have arrested them. And I called for that. And my answer was exactly what I got from my insider during my live stream, right? Schumer and Pelosi are the public government face of the Civil War, and their public statements are directives to their army. Remember Baghdad Bob? Everybody's making fun of him. Oh, we're killing the Americans at the airport. We're slaughtering them in the streets. You know, the people that were laughing at him did not understand Middle Eastern thinking. He wasn't thinking linearly. He was thinking circularly. He was giving orders to his army that had laid down their uniforms and their weapons and went guerrilla warfare. Unconventional, asymmetric. And that's exactly what's happened in Iraq ever since. He was the public voice of what was going on there, and we let him say it. Schumer and Pelosi are the public voice of the leftist Marxists, giving instructions to not only Antifa, but other leftist Marxists, ISIS, drug cartels, etc. They are that. They're the Baghdad Bobs of the United States. That's why I was told to keep an eye on them for operational sequencing. Mark Levin sees it, but he's not a trained military dude. He has no idea what's going on. Sandra Toops responds to me and says, Mr. Potter, I'm certain you are aware of the fact that the CFR controls both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. It's a game the elites control. We just choose sides. That's why I'm saying we've got to stop this. Go back to locals. You'll still have the problem, but man. And it's not going to be easy. I'm not kidding myself. We've set up our own destruction with our complacency. Some know it, some don't. We are already in it. And I said, yes, I know. Some are just more visible than others. Nancy Morgan Hart put out Coup Gone Hot the other day. I always like to promote her stuff because she, unlike me, is very succinct and just is right on the money every single time. Mark Pantano's a little more boisterous and a little more vociferous and a little more verbose, like I am. But he makes his points, and I'm looking forward to his. By the way, he is going to have a podcast today. Go to declaringliberty.com on the web, or go to I think it's Mark Pantano on YouTube, or you can go on Twitter to at the Mark Pantano, and he usually puts up a link to his podcasts. Today's going to be an important one, and I want you to go listen to it. It's going to be about what Trump's actually up to. Okay, I'm certain he's going to touch on some of these topics. And Mark, you know I have so much respect for you. I wish you were in the DOJ or even the Attorney General. I really do. Of course, that'll never happen. Let me see if there's anything else over here. Christopher Green. I've talked about Christopher Green before of AMTV. I started following him when he left the stock market and went out on his own. And yes, I know he's selling things, and I know, sometimes he goes, it kind of, maybe even I'm considered a fear porn guy. I don't mean it to be that way. I just realize that we're in an awful situation. I don't want to say anything negative about Christopher. I have a lot of respect for him. He knows about finances, which is something, for me, I took statistics, and I'd rather do calculus than statistics. And Christopher Green understands finances, and finances have never been my thing. But let me read what he said here. Americans are so conditioned and brainwashed it would take 20 years to recondition them to understand the true narrative of what's happening in America, which is why I'm spending so much time this morning and got started early. The psychological operation was completed by foreign saboteurs and traitors, I will have to say, in our government, people like Pelosi, Schumer, Feinstein, Obama, Eric Holder, etc., 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 etc. And now the engineered collapse of the United States is in full progress. That's what this whole program today is that I'm talking about. They're not coming to save us, ladies and gentlemen. It's a ruse, the whole thing. Not saying that the leftist Marxists didn't attack the cities, but they were set up so that they could take us down, and Trump's not going after the head command and control as I've called for, Soros, etc. No, he's going after the fruit, low-hanging fruit, so that it looks like he's doing something. But he's getting the military out there, and this was planned at least, well, a long time ago, but at the very least 30 to 60 days ago, the operational procedures. Again, Mark Levin says, why do the media cover for Antifa? And I answered him, look no further than Schumer and Pelosi. He won't. Mark Pantano on his Declaring Liberty podcast on his Twitter account. He has two of them. He has at the Mark Pantano, and then he has Declaring Liberty podcast also at Declaring Liberty. And this is what he says. He's answering Alina Gardner, who says, short memory, Obama got reelected after many riots. And Mark says, short memory, Obama never pretended to be a law and order president. He did the exact opposite. He encouraged rioting. Obama was always true to the left. Unlike Trump, who was never true to the right, he consistently screws us. You need to go listen to Mark Pantano. If you don't understand the things that I'm telling you today, if you want to take issue with it, and that means you, John Cardillo, that means you, Colonel Joe, that means you, Lou Dobbs, that means you, Dan Bongino, that means all of you. Now, I understand, I understand that we got to use the tools that we're given. I understand that, but we can't let ourselves be fooled and not call it out. And I know some of you are under restrictions that you can't do that if you were even willing to, which I'm not sure. You've given me some indications that you're willing to, but you can't go there because of the UCMJ, etc. And I understand that. Maybe I'm misjudging the situation. Anyway, let me read this. So, Linda Gardner says, I'm going to read that again. Short memory, Obama got reelected after many riots, and Mark Pantano comes back and says, Obama never pretended to be a law and order president. He did the exact opposite. He encouraged rioting. Obama was always true to the left. Unlike Trump, who was never true to the right, he consistently screws us. Then here was this person who questioned why I contacted Melania, sent her a tweet saying, please try to get your husband to repent and do the right thing. And this guy, whoever this is, responded and said, that's a witch, Ezekiel says not to have anything to do with these people. All right, well, okay, Jesus, he talked to the Herods. He talked to the scribes and Pharisees. They were evil. Why did he bother? Elijah talked to Ahab. And Jezebel even sent messages to Elijah. Well, anyway, my answer to this thing about don't you talk to Melania, how dare you, because she's evil, she's a witch, is what I said. She is his wife. That calls for a different approach, a scriptural one. I suggest you seek to understand that. And I know I'm going through a lot of things here. Oh, yeah, that was in Minnesota. Monica Perez says, DPS quietly covers, DPS is Department of Public Safety in Minnesota, quietly covers for Minneapolis PD National Guard after they shoot paint rounds at a woman on her porch. And my answer was, tyranny and overreach painted as a caring and benevolent parent, disgusting display of doublespeak and authoritarianism. Oh, and then Wayne Dupree. Do you guys follow Wayne Dupree? He's a black guy. No, I really like him. He says, we keep hearing that Antifa wants to go into the burbs, which, again, I told you they did last night in D.C. They broke into residences there, and that's coming to your town. Suburbanites, give us a time and we'll meet you at the gate. In other words, he's saying, Antifa says we want to come into the burbs, and the suburbanites answer and say, oh, give us a time and we'll meet you at the gate, and don't pack a lunch. In other words, you're not going to be leaving on your feet. And I said that is great. Okay, and then I'll end on this, I think. No, I'm going to keep going. This is why I started early today. Ryan James Grudowski said, conservatives from nearly every major outlet spent their weekend asking where is Trump and demanding he respond to the violence and he's tweeting about. And this is what I said. This is when he put in the thing about where we go on, we go all. I said, I might add that he tweeted out a tweet with a Q reference, where we go on, we go all. The Q crowd went ecstatic. In my view, it indicts Trump in the scam to deceive and sedate his base to get a nefarious agenda passed. I have been warning of this for some time, very troubling and alarming. Rich Higgins, the radicalism the country needs isn't the petulant violence of Antifa, but an unyielding moral and intellectual critique of the institutions that malform them. And then this person answered, this Michael Powell, I don't know if he was trying to twist what Rich was trying to say or misunderstood, but this was Michael Powell's answer to Rich. Antifa was malformed, ? I don't think so. They are by design, bought and paid for by agitators since long before World War II Nazi Germany, I might add. Well, Rich, of course, they're still malformed people. It didn't mean that. Rich was talking in general terms. This person wants to, I guess, show off a little bit, and I'm not saying they're wrong. But my answer was what Rich Higgins /DC wrote still applies to your scenario. A lady by the name of Julianne, I hope you don't mind me bringing this up. She writes to me, she says, difficult to get my family to recognize the gravity of the situation. They think Trump's allowing the leftists to riot so his poll numbers will go up. They believe that it will be fixed in November when Republicans win in a landslide. I tell them the mob won't let us vote in December. And my answer to her was, as hard as it is, there comes a time when you have to let them go their way and take care of yourself as best you can. I could say many things, but you might think me harsh toward your family. So one will be enough. Do not cast your pearls before swine. God bless you and yours. And then the tweet that I sent to Flotus, and then I will end here. She wrote out that she hoped everybody would be okay during this time of disturbance. And I wrote back to her and I said, appreciate you, Flotus, but I am going to ask you to tell your husband to repent and do the right thing. You know of what I speak. And I will read one more thing. Jack Posobiec sent out, Antifa group calls for rioters to take up arms against the police. And, of course, to go into the burbs and to attack white people and to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to plant bombs. They're going to be hitting the infrastructure here within the next few days. And Trump will have his military out there, but it's not to protect you. I mean, that's what it will be initially, but then it's going to carry over, as I said, and it's going to be used to control you. But I wrote back and I said, I have warned this is coming. It is at the door. The governments will lock down good Americans and refuse their God-given rights based on an emergency. It will never again be lifted. We saw that happen in New Orleans after Katrina, and in Watertown. Remember when they invaded Watertown for that one juvenile teenager who we're not even sure was involved? We saw what happened in New Orleans after Katrina and in Watertown after the Boston bombing. It's coming. Trump is the cover for this dastardly operation. All right. That's been a long thing this morning. How long have we been going? An hour and a half. I don't have this cup because I just grabbed it by accident this morning. It's cold. Tells me I got to stop. I don't like cold coffee. Do you want me to keep going? I'll go and I'll heat this up and it'll take me a few minutes and I can come back and we can talk on chat if you guys like. Would you like me to do that, or do you want to go listen to some other people that have some really good information? You know, David Knight should be up shortly. He is right now. Lionel Nation's probably got some stuff. Nancy Morgan Hart, I suppose, has put up some stuff. Is there anything here you want me to just keep going? I mean, this is an important thing today. No, thank you, Nancy. Headlines of the Voice, thank you. Okay, I think we've done enough. I'd answer a lot of your questions. I tell you what, let this digest for a few days, and if we still have the ability on Thursday morning, I won't be spouting off at the mouth, okay? I will go directly to chat. Go ahead and let this digest for a few days. Watch what's happening. Don't think that they're doing this to protect you. It's about maintenance of order and the takedown of liberty. Trump is not the champion of liberty. He is its executioner. Under the guise of an angel of light. I know you're there, Nancy. I know you are. And I know you have some work to do this morning. So let's do this. Like I say, this tells me when my time should be up. Thursday morning. Early again. I don't know if it'll be this early. When I started this one, 6:30 Mountain Time. I'll go to chat. And if for some reason I forget, Alex Jones will say, At the next segment, I'm going to reveal my whole thing that I need to tell Trump about. We're going to talk, and then he goes off about himself for another whole segment. He's, I'll talk next segment. I'll do it, and he does that several times. I don't want to do that to you on Thursday. Unless something remind me to take 5 minutes to give a real quick rundown of anything that's been going on. We'll probably be in martial law by Thursday. Thursday morning, though, I'll give a quick synopsis. 5 minutes, don't let me go any longer. And then I'll go to chat. Okay? And we'll take your questions. I probably won't be able to answer them all. I'd love to have people like Nancy Morganhart, Mark Pantano, Chris Anhalt, the Patriot Nurse. I wish I could get all those people on. I wish there was somebody that could do that. I don't have the equipment or the ability to do that with what I work with, but that would be wonderful to have all those wonderful patriots together. But at any rate, so Thursday morning, that's what we'll plan on. Okay, 5 minute rundown, real quick. Then we'll go to chat and we'll have some real interaction. Okay. Yeah, that's not a for sure, Edelson James. I'm saying it's very likely. Look what happened last night. Cops run over, shot, people beat up, residences overrun. So there's a real possibility that by Thursday, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm saying it's very likely. All right, so we'll see you Thursday, all right? And we'll keep the summary short, and then we'll talk to each other then, all right? That way you can go and take care of your business today. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody, out here for now. God bless you. Keep your eyes on the horizon, ears to the ground. Situational awareness on high. Water, food, ammunition, weapons. Not to fight the government, but to protect yourselves against these roving bands. Remember, I told you in the 1850s they said they were going to use roving bands to scare the people, to take their liberties, and to use it as a justification to take over the country. It's all happening. Till next time out here.